I am.
All right.
I'm here.
All right, Doug. So what are we talking about? I'm assuming we're going to talk about flock cameras, correct?
Well, yeah, it starts with an F word. Let's put it that way. Get the flock out of here. Nick and I had the show, and also now on this podcast that I do with Nick, I've talked about these, and they are just pure evil, to put it better. Now, I know the sheriff meant well when he tried to convince you guys that this was going to find senior alerts or Amber alerts or track a criminal. I get all that. The problem is it's all a lie. That's how they sell the surveillance state. For all your folks listening, Kevin, there's a reason that we have, by a factor of, I think, something like 25 or 30 more data centers than the rest of the world combined. It's so they can assimilate all our data and put us under surveillance 24/7. China has nothing on what we are doing. We are really, and this is all happening under President Trump. So I want to be very clear. This is not, oh gosh, this is the liberals. No, this is idiot Trump and his group who have Planeteer. For your people, look it up. Look up Planeteer. Look up data centers. Look at the data collection that's going on. And those flock cameras are an integral part of that system, because it's not just a camera that the sheriffs can turn on to go looking for, bad people or missing people. Every time you drive by, it picks up what's on your phone. It collects the data as you drive by, and it goes to these data centers. Now, people go, well, if you have nothing to hide, what's the problem? That's not how the world works. They will find something. They will find something to make you pay if you're not in the in crowd when the different elections happen. And the truth of the matter is, whether it be Republicans or Democrats, they're going to be collecting this data to use against you, for you, credit scores. Did you, support the wrong thing? Did you buy the wrong product? Trump has been pushing. He says he's not in the digital currency realm, and yet he has this crypto setup that's a scam. But it's all about control. And the flock cameras, Kevin, are part of that. And every time you drive by, it collects data, and it sends it to data centers. And it's already been used nefariously in different jurisdictions by people who traced their girlfriends or wanted to check and see if somebody was cheating or whatever. And I've been very vocal with you and Chris about the fact that I can't believe you guys voted for it, but I get it. The sheriff made a compelling argument because that's how they get in with 1,000 small cuts. My opinion. Yeah,
the conversation I had with the sheriff, and again, it was a positive one, and
it's always positive. That's how they get you to work under the eye of the camera. That's why it's always this is for your benefit.
Yeah, well, but the sheriff and I have definitely disagreed on things as well, and that's what's been great about working with him is, Michael Johnson and I both can separate being in elected public office from just being two people who have strong opinions on stuff. So we can actually really disagree as electeds, and then we can still go watch our kids, grandkids, etc., play basketball at Foothill and be just fine. And so for me, I never felt handled by Sheriff Johnson.
And let me be clear. I mean, Sheriff, what I've heard about Mr. Johnson's been positive. I'm not saying this is a personal attack. I'm just saying this is how it was sold to him, and this is how he sold it to you guys.
Yeah, no, and I do know the statement you made about how many data centers we have here in the U.S. versus other countries. I did see a statistic on that, which was very interesting. And then I would love to compare, our big brother nanny state versus China, because I know China and hotel rooms have cameras, and I mean it's wide sweeping invasion of privacy there as well. But if we're rivaling China, or even in the same conversation, and it sounds like what you're saying is China has nothing on us. Like we do a much better job of, whether it's the Patriot Act or whatever, we do a lot better job of collecting data on its own citizens. Like that's not good. Like, that's not good at all.
Well, China is a communist country. We're apparently with the Democrat Party, we're headed there as well. But the Chinese are very, very upfront. We're going to collect data. If you don't do what we want, we're going to, you can't travel. They've got social credit scores. They've got all this stuff. That's all been in the news. I'm not telling your listeners anything they don't know. They've got, they've got that up front because they're communists. You can't say no. In America, we think we have sway over our elected officials, and we wouldn't have that happen. So they have to sell it. They have to actually do like a proposal and sell us 1 million cuts of death, and this is one of them. And the flock camera is part of that, in that they're being set up all around the country. And like I've showed you and Chris, very clear articles. They're also being taken down as fast as they're going up, because even in very blue districts, Austin, Texas, I can name off a couple that I had back in the day, very blue, Democrat, liberal, stupid the governments who voted for this stuff said, you know what, this actually went a step too far. So when, air quotes, red conservative North State decides that we want to be surveilled by our government, and something's not right there, in my opinion.
Now, do you feel, is there any type of, I don't want to say concession, but is there something that if, insert whatever here, if this was put into place, then the intended use for those would make sense? Is there any type of safeguard where you would say, hey, they could be left up if, or, when this happens?
The problem is, Kevin, they can't safeguard it, because as this recent election showed, apparently us in the North State still want to go towards the Demo-rats in terms of who's been elected. And so, what you guys put in place today can be overturned tomorrow. They just don't need to be here, in my opinion, because they're collecting data on everybody who drives by them, your face, and they go, well, there's no facial recognition. Well, they're lying through their teeth, because I've read research where that's a software. All they got to do is click a switch, and all of a sudden it becomes facial recognition. And, I'm sure everybody listening wants to know, every time you drive by a camera, your face is being recognized and tracked where you go in Shasta County.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a trip. I mean, obviously, anybody that's traveled abroad, knows when you go through customs. I did it yesterday. You give almost like you're like literally walking in front of an iPad. It captures it, and it says, okay, this is who this person is. They're cleared. Are you declaring anything? No. And then now you're back in Miami. And so it was really, the technology's been around, obviously, for a really long time. And you see movies like Minority Report and ones like that, and you think, oh, these are just movies. But then you realize, well, not really. These are actually real things. And again, for me, and the reason why I've really had a change of heart, and I've never felt really great about them. I just really kind of felt like, all right, well, if these are going to help, get people's stolen vehicles back, or if there's like a silver alert where you're, a senior citizen is lost or whatever, and you could track their car, like those things felt compelling enough to me. But then you start reading more and more about, what other communities are doing and what's being said and the data breaches and how those are being abused. Doesn't make you feel good. And then knowing that we've had issues as recent as a few years ago with a former sheriff, who's done that. So it's like, where do you go with that? Like, you just kind of say, well, you can't say it doesn't happen because it's already happened here. And
and that's what I was saying is when you have the idea that you could put bump stops or safeguards in place, then it would be great. The dilemma is, Kev, when you and Chris are gone, and the next one's getting in there, and who knows what group. I mean, if what I think is standing, it's become basically a 4-to-1 Democrat liberal supervisor jurisdiction. If they decide they want to take away those safeguards, they want to do something different, then the reality is, your attempt at safeguards is blown up. And how I would almost argue it with you is, by you and Chris voting for this, you guys have helped set up the surveillance state, which will be used against you down the road, because obviously you have people that don't like you so much sometimes, and if they wanted to find out what Kevin Crye is doing, they just turn on those machines, look for you everywhere you go, and see if they can catch you doing something wrong. And so,
well, it's not
on a machine.
Yeah, it's not a matter of if. I mean, they've tried. That's why all these frivolous lawsuits are starting to get beat back. And you got that failed realtor, that Brad Garbutt guy. I know he's a titan of industry in real estate. I think he's probably, I don't know how many homes he's sold, but if anybody's working with him, I would recommend you not. But people like that come up and try and dictate how the world really works, and you just kind of chuckle because they've been looking for stuff on me forever, and they're not going to find it because I've led a pretty boring life. I'm
well, and that's it. Is just removing. Since you wanted to kind of chat with the flock cameras, I wanted to bring that up. Is just you can't put safeguards on something that evil. You just need to get rid of them. So they'll have to come up with a new way to sell it to the public, to be surveilled and their data collected. And right now, I think that this flock camera contract can be. And I saw an email. People send me stuff. I don't ask for it, folks. But I get emails, and apparently somewhere in Shasta County, one of the flock cameras was cut down. And if I was a revolutionary man, I would say cut them all down. But I don't want to say that because that's vandalism. I don't want people getting in jail. But I thought that was a huge hooray for privacy.
Yeah, well, if there was more time, I would be willing to bet there's probably an opportunity to put something in a charter as it relates to that. And that's the bigger thing is I think. I don't think the votes really reflected how people probably feel about those. I would be willing to bet.
Well, I think the problem is, Kevin, they don't know about them. It was sold as this is going to be silver alert. We can find Grandpa when he's driving his truck and he's been gone for 2 days. This is for Amber Alert when a kid's gone missing. That's how it was sold. They don't understand that the actual apparatus is a data collection point. And if somebody went around and started showing what these cameras do, how they've been used in other jurisdictions, I'm not sure people would even pay attention. We're too on our phones anymore. But so when you say the vote, people don't understand really what those black poles with that box on the top, the 20 of them that are in Shasta County, what they're really doing.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And I knew what they were doing. I just, again, like I could admit when I'm wrong, and I think I know I don't feel good about it. Didn't really initially as well, but now the more I'm actually like reading about different communities getting rid of them, and actually have talked to a couple other supervisors in other counties about their opinions on them, and and we wouldn't be the only county who's voted to approve them. Or approve a contract, and then considering walking that back. Now, I'm not saying the supervisors are doing that right now because I haven't talked to any of the other 4 supervisors about this. I've just talked about it on the radio, and I'll talk about it a little bit this week at the board meeting in my update, and just kind of see if there's an appetite to revisit that because I think the information coming out is enough that we have to really sit up and look and say, hey, look, this is what's happening in other counties and other cities in California. We're not talking about like in Montana or Wyoming or Idaho or Texas. We're talking about like right here in California and how people are rolling those back. And and if blue cities and blue counties are doing that, well, what is that like? What does that say? I think there's a real big lesson to be learned, or something to be noted. Anyway. Do you have anything else, Doug?
Well, sir, it's been a pleasure talking to you this morning. I hope that helps your audience understand what those black poles are doing when they drive by. And I would say giving the one-finger salute would be appropriate for every time you drive by it.
Hey, let me since I did bring up another realtor, let me ask you this: what are you seeing right now in terms of home sales and just the market with interest rates and everything else? Give us a quick. Doug Janke, plug for what you're seeing in the real estate market right now.
The market is stalling. I think we're at the 2007 range, and before people freak out, I mean, just understand it went up 40% in less than 2 years. Anything that goes up vertical always has a heartbeat that takes it the opposite direction. Are we going the opposite direction? I don't know. There's an argument of supply and demand. Interest rates They were clicking up with the war. However, this week I put something into escrow, and the lender says he's able to get an FHA loan down into the 5s. Now, I don't know. He didn't say it was a rate buy down, so I'm going to say rates are about 6.3 to 6.7. There is about 867 homes on the market. For comparison for your audience, about 3 months ago, we only had 600. So we've seen about a 40% increase in inventory, and sellers are having to drop their price because they're getting more competition. I have a house, for example. We started out at 640, which is more than I wanted. I wanted it at 605. We're now at 579 because 5 homes in that neighborhood have come on the market. So if you want to sell, this is the top of the market. Call your agent. Interest rates are still double what they were at the lowest. So it's real estate. It comes and it goes. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I appreciate that analysis and kind of breakdown. I know that this is the time of year to sell in the fall when people are looking to go back to school. I know this is when I've been told is some of the best times to list your home.
Well, also for your listeners, do understand that if you go on the market, you're going on with 40% more inventory than we had just a couple months ago. So it may take your agent, whomever they are. I don't care if they're the biggest with a JB or a small one-off. The fact of the matter is it's going to take a little longer because the competition is more. And if you're a buyer, instead of looking at 3 houses, you get to look at 12. And so, don't beat up your agent too much if it's been on the market for a whopping 3 hours and hasn't sold.
That's awesome. Hey, Doug, you have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll be in touch soon, I'm sure.
Will do, Kev. Have a good day, sir.
You too. All right. So, I appreciate that call in. So I don't know how many of you listening identify with Doug and his opinion on the flock cameras, but I would love to, hear from you and email all the supervisors for that matter about your take on flock cameras. And if you're super supportive of them, send those emails as well. I mean, I'm not going to change my opinion because I think there are a lot of benefits and there are a lot of good things that they do. I just take it in the totality of the vertical in of itself and collecting information and just kind of being that big brother. It just doesn't sit well, and it's that's how I feel, and I'm not gonna change my mind at this point, but. Looking forward to this Tuesday. We do have a couple final steps for 2 ballot measures going on. We've talked about these in the past, which were measures P and Q, which both failed at the ballot box, but we've adjusted them, and we also have supervisor support. I believe 4/5. I think Supervisor Long might have been the only one that wasn't supporting either one of them. And I know Supervisor Plummer is supporting the one around elections, or not elections, but appointing department heads that are elected officials. He supported that one, didn't support the eminent domain one, but I would look for Supervisor Plummer to support the eminent domain one if it's already on the ballot. He doesn't think it should go on the ballot, but if it is on the ballot, he said, well, he would support it if it was already going to be on the ballot. So we'll see where that goes. I just think the more stop gaps, the more things we can put in place to protect Shasta County from the state, overreaching is of the utmost importance. And I would hope, future boards or citizens continue to bring items forward because that's why we have a charter. We have a charter so we can do as much home rule as we can. We're a general law county. Outside of our charter, and that's where we are. So there's things that are outside of the scope of what a county can do because it either relates to state or federal law. But for us here in Shasta County, there are some items that we can bring up, and I'd be curious to know if there was anything as it relates around surveillance or flock cameras, if there could be a ballot measure that would prohibit that type of activity. I don't know. That would be a question for county council, which I'm sure I'll ask. And if I can remember, I'll bring that back up maybe next week. As I mentioned, I have Jason from Reading Buzz on this next hour. So if you have any specific question you'd like asked, please call in, give me that question, and I will ask Jason that as well. As we wrap up this first segment, I want to go back. I got a couple messages about again the the process with being diagnosed with cancer or some type of illness, where to start, etc. And a lot of this conversation, for me, really, I went to that. Like I mentioned, I went to that conference in San Diego a couple of weeks ago called the Boljanski Integrative Medicine, Integrative Approach to Medicine in terms of cancer. And I don't want to botch the names because there's so many different names, but there's blood work, blood tests you can do, where you can send it off to, I believe it's Greece, where you send it to, and it could tell you. The type of chemo, the type of diet, the type of supplements, the type of lifestyle that you need to be looking towards based on your blood work and your test results. So I'm in the process of sending my stuff off right now. At this point, it doesn't matter to some degree because I've already had 12 chemo treatments of oxyplatin and Folfox. So that would be a little late for me, but it's still good to know. Just for if there's any reoccurrence or anything of that nature. So again, I just want to encourage people, if you do want to reach out, don't be shy about it, because the one thing is, and I've learned this too, there's a lot of snake oil salesmen or organizations out there, because for people that are looking to do private pay, especially that have means or resources or money, they'll just throw money at anything that they think may or may not work. And the science doesn't always support what some of these treatments are. And that's where I think, again, I'm definitely not the end-all, be-all authority on, what to do, where to go, et cetera. But I will say I've had a very fortunate approach and fortunate, path with all the people I've met, whether it be just because of, being in office, or just working with a lot of pro athletes or performers, singers, songwriters, musicians, actors, so on and so forth. I've got a pretty large network of people that have reached out and have been given. I've been given